Hey everyone, you've probably heard the story of the crow and the pitcher, right? It's a total classic. Well, today we're going to use this simple tale as a really cool way to build up our English skills. So let's jump right in.
So you might be thinking, how can a thirsty crow teach me English? And yeah, it sounds a little strange, I get it. But trust me, this old story about a super smart bird, it's pretty much the perfect learning tool. It's short, it's easy to remember, and it's absolutely packed with key vocabulary and a great lesson about thinking outside the box. Let me show you what I mean.
You know, every great story needs a good problem to solve, right? And this one starts with a pretty serious one. I mean, it's basically a life or death situation for our hero, a very, very thirsty crow.
So, just imagine this for a second. It's a super hot day, and our poor crow is just desperate for a drink. He spots a pitcher of water. Yes! But there's a catch. The water is way down at the bottom, and his beak just can't reach it. It looks totally hopeless, right? So what's he gonna do? He can't just muscle his way through this one.
And this is my favorite part. This is where the story gets really, really good. The crow doesn't give up, and he doesn't use brute force. Nope, he uses his brain, and he comes up with this absolutely brilliant solution.
See, instead of trying to smash the pitcher or something, the crow basically thinks like a little scientist. He looks around, spots some small stones, pebbles, and has this amazing idea. He figures out that if he drops them in, one by one, he can actually make the water level rise. It's just a perfect real-world example of problem solving.
And it works! Success! Just by being patient and using his brain, the crow solves the puzzle and gets that drink he desperately needed. It's such a simple story, isn't it? But man, it has a really powerful message.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? What's the lesson? Well, like any good fable, this one has a moral. Essential idea that we can actually use in our own lives when we face our own problems.
It really all boils down to one simple phrase. Intelligence solves problems. That's it. The crow couldn't force his way to the water, but he had something way more powerful, and that was his mind. He literally thought his way out of the problem.
This is just such a great way to see the difference, isn't it? I mean, think about it. The crow could have tried to use force. He could have pecked at the pitcher, tried to knock it over, but what would have happened? It probably wouldn't have worked. He might have even broken the pitcher and lost all the water. Instead, using his intelligence gave him a creative and, a working solution. It's just a great reminder that thinking things through is almost always better than just charging ahead.
All right, so we've got the story, we've got the moral. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty and break down the language. We're going to look at 10 key words that are not only going to help you tell this story, but lots of others in English too.
First up, our star, the crow. You know him, those big, smart, black birds you see everywhere. Crows are actually famous for being clever, so it makes perfect sense that a crow is the hero of this story.
Next, the pitcher. A pitcher is basically any container you use for holding and pouring liquids. It usually has a handle and a little spout. So you might say at the breakfast table, "Hey, could you pass the pitcher of juice?" Now for the crow's big problem. He was thirsty. Thirsty is that feeling you get when you really, really need a drink. Like after you go for a long run, you might say, "Wow, I am so thirsty."
And what did he need? Water. Simple enough, right? But in our story, water wasn't just a drink. It was the entire goal. It was the solution to the crow's huge problem.
Okay, what was the crow's secret weapon? The pebble. A pebble is just a small, smooth stone, not a giant rock, just a little one. You find them all the time on beaches or by rivers. And here's the main action, to drop. The crow would pick up a pebble and then just let it fall, or drop it, right into the pitcher. It's the same thing you hope you don't do with your phone.
So what happened when he dropped the pebbles in? The water level began to rise. To rise just means to move upwards. It's the same word we use when we say, the sun will rise in the morning.
And finally, the sweet reward. Once the water was high enough, the crow could drink. To drink a liquid is, of course, the perfect solution for being thirsty. Now for the big theme of the story, intelligence. You can just think of intelligence as brain power. It's that ability to understand things, to learn, and to solve problems. Exactly what our crow did.
And our very last word is the thing that kicked this whole story off, a problem. A problem is just any difficult situation that needs a solution. The thirsty crow had a problem, and his intelligence was the key that unlocked the answer.
All right, there we have it.
We've gone through the whole story, its moral, and all that great vocabulary. But now comes the most important part. It's your turn to make these words your own. Let's put what we've learned into practice.
So here you go. This is your brand new English toolkit. 10 really useful words just ready for you to use. And your task is super simple, but really effective. I want you to try and write 2 sentences using a few of the words from this list. Seriously, it's the absolute best way to make sure they stick in your brain.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a final thought. The crow used his intelligence to beat a challenge he couldn't beat with strength. So take a look at your day-to-day. What problem, whether it's big or small, are you going to solve by thinking just a little bit more creatively? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer.